All right, my English teacher friends, Kristian Kuhn coming at you again, affectionately known as the Bob Ross of composition. And in this workshop, we're going to do a little lesson in discovering theme. I don't know if your students are anything like mine, but man, oh man, do some of my students have a really difficult time rendering the abstract into something concrete and bite-sized. So what we'll do with this is practice my inverted thesis frame. Some people call it a heuristic. And I'll show you how we used the three little pigs to arrive at thesis points in the introductory paragraph. Before we jump in, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's called Kristian Kuhn, the Bob Ross of composition. Spread the word far and wide to friends, colleagues, and students so that I can beat that pesky algorithm and get my message out there wide and far. So what I did for this was I hosted a circle time in which we read the three little pigs. I read it twice to my students, and I didn't allow them to talk or consult or anything like that the first time. Second read, we took a 5-minute break after the second recitation, and I had them break down what they thought was being compared in this. Are we talking about a wolf and three pigs, or are we talking about something else? And that's how we got them ultimately to arrive at the universal truth, the universal theme, the exigence of the piece. So you're going to see student examples. And just for full disclosure, I've had my students now ever since September 7th, and we are about the middle of February, just shy of the middle of February. So they've been in my classroom a good amount of time. I've Bob Rossed my instruction for them a lot, especially the inverted thesis heuristic. And what I mean by that is I got to the proverbial easel and canvas and I painted with and for them innumerable times, showing them how to manipulate this frame. And it's a really good practice to get into. If you want students to execute things a certain way, it needs to be modeled exhaustively. So here's the formula that we use for literature analysis. And I know a lot of AP literature teachers are going to be looking at this. And I use this for FRQ1 and FRQ2. Keep in mind the octopus prompt from a couple of years ago. That's where I'm going to go next with this. It's going to segue into that. So the formula asks, are we talking about a wolf and three pigs, or are we talking about something else? So the formula is X is being compared to Y to convey what? So at face value, this is just a story, just some parable about three pigs and a wolf. You know, the three pigs construct different houses of different material. But that's not the gist. That's not the kit and caboodle of this. So implicit in all those prompts, all right, and I'm speaking specifically to AP literature teachers here, and even those of you that are doing exercises like this that are not in AP literature specifically, all prompts, if they're worded well, have implicit in them two questions. What is the author's intent, and how does the author construct meaning? In the introductory paragraph, if students answer both of those questions correctly, if they ascertain the meaning and the complexity of the work as a whole, they're going to be in good standing and come out of the gates with relative blazing speed. So the inverted thesis heuristic looks like this. It's a total of 4 sentences, and my students take 3 sentences to arrive at the question, what is the author's intent? So that gets 3 sentences. So we're getting into that formula of what is being compared to what with regards to the 3 little pigs in those 3 sentences. The last sentence is the thesis statement, which is why we call it an inverted thesis frame. And the question goes to, how does the author construct meaning? And we're dealing with a parable. We're dealing with an allegory. You know, you have strong characterization. So those are the types of terms, devices, techniques that I want my students to sprinkle into that last sentence there. I do run a word study academy throughout the academic year. And it's just a whole bunch of strategies that I warehouse get students to help augment their vocabulary. So you should see my students use a fair amount of tier 2 level words. And what I mean by that is just your average run-of-the-mill SAT level caliber words. And then also I run a nuance academy. And our staple text in that Nuance Academy is Strunk and White's Write It Right. They have something called rule number 18, in which they espouse the idea that there's 12 sentence types that can be patterned 20 different ways. So in order to achieve nice, supple voice rhythm flow, you're going to see my students do some fanciful things with their syntax at sentence level. So here's the first one. Again, we're going to do the 3+1 inverted thesis frame. I'll read the whole thing from top to bottom, and then I'll break it down for you. It is human tendency to desire best case scenarios when one sits back to project future outcomes. We all have dreams, but we all don't have what it takes to see those dreams manifest to fruition. What is often missing is the following understanding. To make dreams a reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. Parable of the Three Little Pigs arrives at such an understanding through the strong characterization of the principal leads as well as the driving allegory. So the last sentence there, the construction of meaning sentence, is where you want to have your terms, devices, techniques. And this student went the route of strong characterization and driving allegory, right? So you don't have to have a literary terms dumping ground, just a few of the most germane ones to the piece. First three sentences are all universal theme, universal truth, the exigence, the moral of the story. At sentence level, you can see this student do some interesting things. First sentence, independent clause. What I have my students do is take a look at the sentence that they just dropped. So 1 is an independent clause. 2 is a little different because it has that comma, but then look at 3, that long, wieldy sentence with the colon in there. That's what I mean by sentence variation, right? And then 4 is different than 3. So in order to get that nice, supple voice rhythm flow that students need to get into like the 5 and 6 level on the AP rubric, got to be able to do that kind of stuff at sentence level, but also wield a vocabulary that is as nice as this. I like words like manifest and fruition, really, really good stuff in there. In terms of that third sentence, the student is doing something that we call a quadruple. So do you see where they say determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort? So you can layer in patterns of 2, 3, and 4, duos, trios, and quadruples, and they went with a foursome here. So that's something that we study in the Nuance Academy. Let's paint another one just to demystify it. I got 2 more for you. Here's a simple one. In most situations, taking your time to do something right pays off. And that's like the big aha, right, of the Three Little Pigs. On the flip side of the coin, lackluster efforts will avail one little to nothing in most scenarios, right? We're just unpacking it here. 3 sentences of unpacking the moral of the story. Whether it be the avoidance of an impending calamity or thwarting the efforts of a nemesis, maximum effort is of utmost value. So you can see that the student did a duo there. This is stuff that we've been practicing in class. The parable of the Three Little Pigs allegorically arrives as such an understanding. So it's always 4 sentences, 3+1, get the vocab up, cook the sentence constructs. Let's see it one last time, the inverted thesis heuristic. The formula of success has a strange embedded irony hidden in the underbelly of its equation. Nothing works unless you do. All too often, one wants to take a convenient shortcut on their path to greatness. But the little known fact is this, concepts and ideas, even the great ones, don't work for those individuals unwilling to do the work. So we're at the end of the third sentence. Fourth sentence, construction of meaning. This concept is allegorically depicted in the parable of the Three Little Pigs. And that's all it is that 3+1 over and over and over again. In the coming days, weeks, months, I'll make more of these. I do this type of exercise all the time. And I want to use more complex pieces. And someone in the Facebook community said, Kristian, can you do one on some real difficult allegories, like The Missing Piece Meets the Big O by Shel Silverstein, and the other one was The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, to see if kids can get their head around concepts like that. And tomorrow in school, I got pretty much a free day, so I'm thinking about covering both of those, and I'll get those in my YouTube channel by week's end. So sit tight. I'll have my students work through that. So just so that you know, I can be reached at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. If you have any requests or any questions, I always answer my emails. And then also note that Applied Practice and I are going to be running some summer PD sessions, and you can get information at their website, www.appliedpractice.com. We're going to be offering it for Lit and Lang teachers. I've been teaching both courses now for over 2+ decades. And if you have any questions about those PDs, you could also drop me an email. All right, be well, and I'll keep producing as the days go along.